Wayside Christian Mission has been operating the low barrier shelter since December 24th. This is the only low barrier shelter in the city of Louisville, so everything was an experiment. It's all new. We didn't know exactly what to expect. We did know what the population on the street was, especially with the large encampment right across from our shelter. We knew in that area there were a lot of drugs being used, being sold, trafficked. We knew there was a lot of criminal activity over there, but we also knew that there were some folks that were kind of caught up in that really did need help. So we opened a low barrier shelter addressing 4 barriers, and those were people who had pets and were not allowed in shelters, couples who were not allowed to stay together in shelters, people who are high and intoxicated and not allowed to come into a shelter, and then people who had been barred from every shelter in town and could not find shelter anywhere. Those were the 4 barriers that we chose to address. What we found is, especially when the camps were cleared, a lot of the criminal element also came into the shelter. And in many cases, these aren't even homeless folks. These are folks who are preying on the homeless, who are trafficking drugs to the homeless, who are human trafficking with the homeless, who are robbing the homeless, and basically beating up the weaker homeless. And so we knew there was that criminal element. That is basically what we were not equipped to handle. We are social workers, we are administrators, we are frontline staff people. We are not police officers. We are not corrections officers. And those are the things that we have difficulty with. When we proposed the low barrier shelter, we had been given an assurance that we would have a police presence. We would have police walkthroughs 2 to 3 times per shift. Now, we didn't put extra money in the budget to hire off-duty officers. Unfortunately, we were told after the shelter was open that we should never have been promised that police walkthrough up front. Louisville Metro Police Department has been wonderful in responding to calls and helping us, but they said they cannot provide that up front. We wanted the up front to deter trouble. Every time we call for an ambulance, it brings a police officer. That's a call. Every time they respond to anything in this area, so up until a month ago, we had all of the folks under the bridge. If police responded over there, that was attributed to Wayside. If anything goes on Jackson, Jefferson, Liberty Street, that's attributed to Wayside, whether it has anything to do with our clients or not. So calls do rack up. And we are very grateful for the police support that we do have. But responding to incidents that have happened is not the same as providing a presence to deter incidents from happening. So we did not budget for security other than our own in-house security. We have met with the police department on 2 occasions since we opened the low barrier shelter, and we have tried to fulfill every recommendation they gave us. For example, they wanted the picnic tables removed from behind the gymnasium so people couldn't hang out. We did away with those. They wanted lights put up on the back of the shelter. We're in the process of that. That's 2/3 complete. There are a few more lights that we want to put up back there. They wanted one way into the shelter, one way in, one way out. We have done that. We have even gone so far as to put ear-splitting alarms on the fire doors so that folks can't let their buddies in the fire doors. Everyone has to come through the check-in area, which has a metal detector they walk through. It has wanding. If something beeps, we check their backpacks, we check their pockets, we check everything, looking for weapons and contraband that is not to be in this shelter. And they want fencing up. We are under contract with Metro Government, but Metro Government is providing paving and fencing of this large lot behind us, and we have to work on their time scale. We can't do anything to hurry that up, although it is in process, and we hope it will be done soon. Because the Louisville Metro wants us to have a minimum of 2 and preferably 4 off-duty police officers on our shelter, Low Barrier Shelter, anytime it is open. With the price we have been quoted as Wayside Christian Mission, the minimum of 2 around-the-clock off-duty LMPD officers would cost $876,000. We were given a grant of $100,000 for 6 months. So we do not have $876,000 to provide 2 off-duty LMPD officers around the clock. What we have done, we hired a private security company to provide us with an armed guard during our check-in period until the shelter closed at night, and to make sure things stay calm, make sure everyone was checked in properly, make sure that the grounds were secure once we closed the doors at 10 p.m. So we have acted in good faith. We have tried to be good partners with the police, and so we are doing the best we can with what we have to work with. The budget for this experiment was $100,000 for 6 months. We have done our darndest. We have spent more than $100,000, but we have done our darndest to be a successful low barrier shelter. And communities across our nation now are trying to determine if the low barrier shelter is a way to go. This problem is not unique to Louisville at all. All of these large cities across the country are seeing a large amount of homeless people living on the streets, camping on the streets, and many of these communities are toying with the low barrier shelter. What we have to remember is low barrier does not mean no barrier. We chose, when we opened our facility, to address 4 barriers that these folks camping on the street experience. Those 4 barriers are people with pets, because pets are normally not allowed in a shelter, couples who want to stay together. Virtually no shelter can take couples in and have them remain together unless they have children with them. And many couples do not want to be split up. In many cases, one of the spouses has dire medical needs, and they need that spouse there to help take care of them. So we allowed couples to come in. We did allow folks who were intoxicated or high to come in with the understanding they could not bring their drugs or alcohol on our premises. And then we did allow folks who had been barred from every shelter in town. And those are mainly the populations that were camping under the bridges, under the viaducts, and on the streets. What we have learned is that when you basically open your doors to everyone, you have a lot of criminals coming in that in most cases aren't even homeless. But this criminal element comes in. In many cases, they don't sleep in the shelter. They are coming in to peddle their drugs, to peddle their wares. In many instances, they've come in to create violence. And that is what we are not equipped to handle in our low barrier shelter. On the horizon, June 28th, a new law will take effect in the Commonwealth of Kentucky that will allow basically anyone who is not a convicted felon and who is 21 or older to carry a concealed deadly weapon without a license of any sort. They can buy that weapon, they can conceal it, they can come in anywhere. That frightens us quite a bit. We have, since we've started, set up check-in points where we can look for weapons. We have taken guns off of people. We have taken knives off of people. Just weapons that we don't want within our walls. It's going to be even more difficult when so many people can have concealed deadly weapons. We are gearing up to tighten even more the check-in process. So we are planning to adjust our check-in hours where we will have a concentration, in addition to security, we will have a concentration of our top-level supervisors on duty in the check-in point during check-in times to ensure that these weapons are not coming in. We are designing a way folks can come in one at a time. We're going to deal with one person at a time and clear that person totally to go into the shelter before the next person comes through that door. In many cases, we have found a lot of this criminal element coming in will just push by the check-in point and run back in the shelter. And so then our guards on the check-in point have to make a choice. Do they pursue that person who is pushed by and leave it open for anyone else to come in, or do they keep their point there? And so we are going to make sure that everyone is checked thoroughly before coming into the shelter as a way to ensure that these weapons do not get into the shelter. If any media personnel are watching this video and they want to learn more about the Low Barrier Shelter, they are welcome. Call me. My direct line is 664-7112. I will be more than happy to meet you here, to take you through the Low Barrier Shelter and our regular shelter if you so desire, and to answer your questions. We are definitely open. We are open to tours. If anyone in the community wants to come down and see more about it and consider whether they might want to volunteer with us, call me. We would welcome your help. We would welcome you to come down and see for yourself and see where you may be able to plug in and help. So just call us. Wayside's number is 584-3711. We are very open to the public, so give us a call.
notice is over there. And I just thought I needed to be here to show support here and show support to everybody. No, probably no. We have had a couple of meetings. This is the biggest one of the year. So it's all about get up one time or another. So it is a lot of work, and it's probably the most visible. Yes. What we're hoping to do is make it very clear that